What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is a review for Game of Thrones Season 8 as a whole. 6 episodes. They were given the chance to do 10. They should have done 10. That's as simple as I can make it. D&D really screwed up with that choice. If they wanted to rush through so they could get to something else, they should have done it with something else. Because this was quite possibly the biggest TV series ever. Like, literally half the fucking world was watching Season 8 at the beginning. I really liked Game of Thrones throughout. Its entire series, it was absolutely amazing. It started to change at Season 7, and those definite noticeable differences. Season 8, there were things that I really liked about it. There were things that I think people bitched about that I didn't have a problem with. But overall, I think the big consensus here is that it was rushed. And there are things that happened that did not feel earned. There was a lot of character development that I think needed to happen for certain things. Let's talk about what I like overall. Now, I'm not typically the type of person to talk about the cinematography, the sound editing, the score, but all of those things are exemplary in this series, and that includes Season 7 and 8. Throughout this entire series, cinematography has been absolutely amazing, score is absolutely amazing, sound editing is absolutely amazing. The acting really has been amazing. There have been some performances in this series that I think really made it as special as it was. Of course, Peter Dinklage being at the top of the list, but I also like Nikolai Coster-Waldau. I think he's been absolutely amazing. I would say the same is true of Lena Headey. Conleth, who plays Varys, is absolutely amazing. So there's a lot of really good performances, a lot of good characters already developed. When you get to Season 8, you kind of see things falling apart because they have the highlights of what are supposed to happen, and they don't really know how to get from A to B to C. And that's what hurts this show. At the end of the day, it was just simply rushed. Now, here's what I didn't have a problem with. I called very early on that they were going to have the war with the Whites, the Walkers, the Night King, and that they were going to kill him, and then they were going to move on to the last war. I knew that was going to happen. That's the only way you could do it, in my opinion. I think that people who had an issue with the way the Night King was handled, you know what? I don't see how else you could have done it. At the end of the day, it is a battle for the Iron Throne, and that's where it needed to end, in my opinion. You needed a battle of personalities. And that's what they tried to do. Now, my big problem with this entire series, honestly, is the way they handled Cersei's death. I felt it was weak. I felt it was very weak. She was the big bad throughout most of this series, if you're really being honest. She was the one pulling the strings. She was the one causing the problems. And so I felt that Jaime's character arc, his story of redemption through 7 seasons, just to turn around one night and go back to Cersei was weak, and them dying together in each other's arms was weak. I didn't like either one of those things. I didn't feel like one of them was earned, and I felt like the other one was just not very well thought out. I honestly did not have a problem with Bran being chosen at the end to be on the Iron Throne. The reasoning I didn't necessarily like. Everybody has a story to tell. Building on the fact that these are from books, they're trying to play, a little bit of a nod to George Martin. Not a fan. I was happy though, because at the end of the day, you had a Stark on the Iron Throne. You had the North separated now. They are their own kingdom. They have Sansa as the Queen of the North. She gets what she wants. Jon really gets what he wants, because even though he was supposed to be, sent to the Night's Watch, there is no Night's Watch now. So it was basically Bran letting him go be with the free folk north of the Wall, which is essentially where he belonged. and he said he never wanted the Iron Throne. He never wanted anything to do with it. People have issue with that. Well, it's their issue. It's not mine. There were things that were definitely not perfect about the story and prophecies and things like that. Although, in my opinion, if you really think about it, I mean, I feel like Jon does really fulfill the prophecy of Azor Ahai, because he takes down the biggest threat to the kingdoms, which at that point was Dany. And they didn't specify that it was going to be the Night King. So, bring him back from the dead to take care of the person that he was supposed to take care of, and he didn't want the Iron Throne to begin with, so everything kind of rolls up rather nicely, in my opinion. Tyrion winds up getting to be Hand of the King. Now, there are choices with the small council that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, and I get that. People have a big problem with Brandon's story arc. They say he's boring. I liked it. So, I didn't have a problem nearly as much as other people did with Season 8. There were definitely some things that I wish they would have thought through a lot better. I wish they would have went the full 10 episodes, because it did feel mighty rushed. There was a lot of fan service, and that was one thing that I did not like too, is George Martin creates war scenarios where innocents die, where the heroes die, where whoever, is unlucky enough to die, he stays true to life. And I felt like a lot of that got replaced by the fan service. The Arya killing the Night King, I do think that didn't necessarily make the most sense. But I didn't really have a problem with that either, to be very honest. Like, the fact that they used Jon to kill Dany still kind of makes the prophecy relevant, in my opinion. Dany going Mad Queen, everybody says they didn't have a problem with that. It's just how they went about it. And I would say the same thing. And again, that goes back to everything being rushed. 6 episodes to clear out a lot of storylines and to describe why Jaime wants to go back to Cersei, why Jon does this, why we have the Mad Queen. It was just a little bit of a ripoff. Dany, especially when she goes mad in episode 5, destroys everything, kills a bunch of innocents. You saw that coming. They've definitely hinted at it throughout the series. So I certainly did not have a problem with it. I just wish they had fleshed out a series of events that made a little bit more sense than just all of a sudden she sees the Red Keep, it reminds her of her family, and there you go. Just didn't quite make sense to me. Another thing that I had a problem with was Euron and Jaime. That fight could have been taken out completely, like, honestly. At the end of the day, none of it really made sense. They just magically happened to appear at the same spot. Euron stabs Jaime a couple of times. He says, "I killed the Kingslayer," even though he didn't. And he gets killed by Jaime, so none of it made sense. But overall, I think in the last episode, after having some problems with things like that, I do feel like they really brought it home. I really did. I liked the ending to Game of Thrones. I know that is going to be a very unpopular opinion. So be it. You kind of knew that Jon was going to kill Dany. It was going to be Jon or Arya. I'm glad it was Jon. He fulfills the prophecy. In my opinion, that's how it works. And from there, yeah, Grey Worm could have and probably should have just killed Jon. Why would they keep him prisoner? I get that. There's definitely some plot armor there. But even that didn't take me out so much that I didn't like it. I felt like, the people that you wanted to see get, the reward for everything they've been doing. Tyrion, Sansa, Arya, who, essentially wants to travel the world now. um, John going north. I just felt like it all worked. So, I mean, there were definitely big missteps along the way, and there were steps completely missing from the story. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed it. I actually gave it a pretty high score. I think I gave it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Because I really do feel like, I don't know how else you would have fleshed out every single thing that happens so that everybody kind of gets what they want in the end. And that's the only way I could do it. People are talking about John being on the throne. He should have been the reluctant leader. That's the whole point, though. He didn't want it. And so at the end of the day, he got what he wanted. I didn't have a problem with that. So, I mean, I still had a lot of fun with this series, though. I had a lot of fun with this season. I'll be honest, episode 3 had me on the edge of my seat for an hour and a half. And I mean the whole time. That war from beginning to end, I was just like, oh my God, dude. And I don't care. I thought it was amazing, and I didn't have the big problem that everybody else did with like who killed the Night King. I found it kind of fitting. So, overall, as a series, there were some missteps. It was rushed, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for season 8. I feel like they closed up everything satisfactorily. Everything looked amazing. The score was still amazing. The sound editing was still amazing. The acting was still top notch. When Tyrion found Cersei and Jaime buried under the rubble, and even when he said goodbye to Jaime when they were both still alive, like those are some just damn good performances there. Even Emilia Clarke, man, when she was kind of selling, going crazy and being really pissed off on Drogon, I really liked it. So, I just felt like, people, no matter what happened, there were going to be people that weren't happy with this. And I think once you get a vocal minority, that minority turns into a majority very quickly. I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to follow the pack. If I like something, I like it, and that's what it is. If I don't like it, I don't like it. And I agree that this had problems in season 8. You could definitely tell that this was not George R.R. Martin behind it. I've read the books. Trust me, I know, I get it. But it was still very entertaining. And I think it was more entertaining than most shows out there. They did not stick the landing, but it was a good ending, in my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. So that's where I'm at. 8 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz, Kaged Nation.